What's the weirdest thing you've done that you could only tell people anonymously? Before we start with the first story, please hit a subscribe and ring the notification bell to stay updated with us. Number 10. One time I went outside at like 2 a.m. and put the garden hose nozzle into my butt and sprayed some water into it, then farted it out onto the lawn. Basically gave myself an enema with a garden hose. I did this because I was bored. My neighbor saw me and told my dad, lived at home at the time. Number 9. Stole over 1,000 wafers from church because I really liked the communion wafers, didn't know where else to get them. I felt really blessed and cursed for a long time. So funny you would do that. I work for a church. We generally use fresh bread but keep communion wafers on hand in this fancy jar called a ciborium just in case we run out. Recently, I had to remind the pastor to reorder wafers because we were almost out of them, and the ones he rebought are fantastic. Best wafers I ever had. Instead of being made of that foamy white rice paper, they taste exactly like Pringles. Salty and crisp and melt in your mouth. Like I legit would buy these as a snack. So, I get it. Number 8. I found a dead rat in a field when I was younger and kissed a guy I wanted to say goodbye. That's kinda sweet of you, to be honest. Using tongue was a bit unnecessary though. Number 7. Was drunk at an escape room with coworkers. It was an extreme one where you are handcuffed the entire time. I decided in my drunken state that it would be badass to dislocate my thumb and slip off the cuffs like the movies. It wasn't. We got kicked out, my coworkers were weirded out, and I had to go to the hospital. I quit a few weeks later. White collar wasn't for me. Number 6. When I was younger, I joined an international dating site that I figured was a scam. Put a black square as my picture and gave myself a fake name, and then looked through their users. And after about 10 minutes I had like 100 messages. Most of them were messages telling me how handsome I was or how these women fell in love with me at first sight. Now I knew it was a scam, but whenever I felt down or got rejected for a while I would pop back on the site and read a few messages. Yeah, it's kinda cringy and probably pathetic, but it made me feel better. I would just turn off that logical part of my brain that knew it was a scam for a while and just pretend I was this popular and desirable guy. And it honestly got me through the day sometimes. This is kinda wholesome. I like it. Nobody lost anything, nobody got hurt, it helped you at some difficult times in your life. I don't see anything pathetic about it. Plus, you took something as evil as scamming and used it, or the scammers, to do something good. I'm calling it a win for you. Number 5. I got my bottom 2 wisdom teeth removed and made the huge mistake of eating only yogurt and cheese for a few days. I did not know the effect it would have on my fecal matter. I didn't have to poop for a few days, so I knew something was up. When it finally came time for the urge to come, I sat down and started pushing and instantly knew there was a big problem. I thought that since yogurt was soft that it would make soft poo, but no, it did not. I pushed really hard and it wasn't starting to come out, but it wasn't going to get out. I didn't want to keep pushing really hard because that's how you get hemorrhoids. So I was stuck. I actually thought I would maybe have to go to the hospital because this giant thing was stuck in my colon, and I really didn't want to do that. So panicking, I sat up and felt around and felt the tip of it starting to come out. I turned the faucet on with my clean hand and then I tried to start picking it out with my fingers. I really had no other choice. I managed to pick some pieces off and the consistency was like dense clay. I'm not having fun here, but I was making some progress. Eventually, after picking pieces off, I sat down and tried to push again, and it started to come out all on its own. What resulted was probably the closest thing to childbirth that a man could experience. There was a lot of relief getting it out, but I now had another problem. There's no way this giant thing could flush. It was about 3 times as large as a normally biggish poo. It was massive. I even took a picture, and later deleted it. I was using the faucet to wash my fingers off and now I had to actually use them to break up this thing. And that's what I did. It was a total mess. If you've ever woken up in the middle of the night with a nosebleed and you take care of it in the bathroom. The next day you go to the bathroom and there's blood everywhere. It was kinda like that but with poo. It sucked. I eventually got all the pieces to flush and spent about 20 minutes cleaning up the bathroom of what was left behind. So I learned a lesson about what lots of dairy can do to you and some other lessons I didn't know or want to learn. Edit. I was not on painkillers. Number 4. I had kidney stones a few years back and was in a lot of pain. I didn't know it was kidney stones at the time, and some of the pain felt like blue balls. I was at work and in a lot of pain down there. Told my coworker, who was my good friend, and I had a thought that if I could jerk off it would help relieve the pain. I went to the bathroom and rubbed one out, stopping when people came in to do their business. Finished up, and then was still in a lot of pain. I remember going over to her and said, "It didn't work," with a pained look on my face. I went home early later on. Have never told anyone but her, lol. Number 3. We got super drunk and ate a ton of spicy food in New Orleans. Back at the B&B, the food started to come out the backside. I was sitting on the toilet shitting bricks of fire. At that moment, the booze decided to hang a U-turn. The trash can was out of reach, and I couldn't risk standing up from the toilet for even 5 seconds. The closest receptacle was the bathtub. I managed to turn in such a way that I could keep shitting in the toilet while projectile vomiting into the tub. Both ended up clogged, and there was no plunger. I had to call the owner to explain that I had destroyed both their toilet and their tub simultaneously. Number 2. I was extremely socially isolated as a child and tried to make friends with the coyotes who lived in the woods by our home. I caught one in a snare and fed and kept her. I wanted a friend. This reminded me of a story. I lived with my aunt while she was in and out of the hospital. She told me of a neighbor she used to have. Abusive father and equally abusive eldest son, the mother and 2 daughters were abused daily, and the father raised dogs for a dog-fighting ring he took part in. The mom and daughter's job would be to feed them, and with that they took a liking to the 3 women. The 2 guys at one point thought it'd be hilarious to let the dogs loose and have them attack the mom and daughters. The dogs attacked the 2 guys, and by the time police arrived they were declared dead. They were ripped and torn apart to the point Ians were pretty sure that they couldn't get them to the nearest hospital. Number 1. Once I got off the subway in New York, and I was super early for an appointment. So I picked a random guy and just followed him on foot for like 30 minutes, pretending I was like a private detective or something. Always kept about a half block behind. He turned this way and that, and eventually went into a building I had lived in 9 years earlier. It was weird, and so was I. I once had a minor ankle injury that made it kinda hurt to walk. Then this dude started following me. I made the injury worse and a lot more painful because this random dude was following me to my apartment, and I didn't feel safe going slow. Would have run if I could. When I left my apartment building, he then asked me the time. I don't know if he was just pretending to have some reason to be following me or if he was trying to steal my phone. Common tactic here. Ask someone the time, hope they take out their phone to check. Snatch it. Freaked me out. Alright folks, that's a wrap. If you like more of this, please hit a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. You can also share your thoughts in the comments below. I'll see you in the next video.